An island at the bottom of the world, cut off by the Southern Ocean. This is Tasmania. A jagged peak, wrapped in cloud for more days than it is clear. A coastline of granite-stained orange, white sand pressed between rock and open water. A harbor of sandstone warehouses, 2 centuries old, standing where they were built at the river's edge. A museum cut into a cliff, built around 3 subjects: life, death, and desire. Tasmania covers 26,000 square miles at the southern edge of Australia, separated from the mainland by Bass Strait. 40% of the island falls inside protected wilderness or national parks. Some islands exist to be passed through. This one accumulates slowly, location by location, until the weight of what it holds becomes clear. Dry buttongrass plains in the west, dolerite columns above coastal cliffs in the east, a southern channel where the last ferry runs on schedule, regardless of weather. This is where the journey begins. The Bay of Fires runs roughly 30 miles down the northeastern coast, from Binalong Bay south to Eddystone Point. In 1773, the navigator Tobias Furneaux sailed past and recorded fires burning along the beach. They belonged to the Palawa people, the Aboriginal Tasmanians, who had occupied this coastline for at least 35,000 years. Furneaux named the bay for what he saw from the water. The granite along this coast weathers orange and rust at the surface. The color comes from lichen, mostly Caloplaca species, that colonize the rock faces above the tide line. The lichen advances a fraction of an inch over decades. The oldest orange patches on some boulders represent growth measured in centuries. Below them, the sand is white, compressed silica, weathered fine by wave action. The water stays clear because the seabed is sand and granite with little suspended sediment. The 3 colors work together in a way description struggles to predict. The orange is more saturated than photographs suggest. The white is bright enough in full sun to need sunglasses. The water shifts between teal and deep blue with depth and cloud. Shell middens run along the dune line. These layers of shell, bone, and stone tools are the preserved record of Palawa food preparation and habitation, some of them thousands of years old. They are protected sites. At the southern end, on a granite headland, Eddystone Point Lighthouse has stood since 1889. Its light is still operational. From late July through September, humpback whales move along this coast on their northern migration. The bay's open aspect makes them visible from shore on calm days, sometimes within a few hundred yards of the waterline. Cape Hauy extends from the southeastern corner of the Tasman Peninsula into open water. The walking track begins at Freycinet Bay and covers about 5 miles return through coastal scrub and low forest before it reaches the headland. The path never settles. It climbs and drops over uneven stone the whole way. The final section runs along the cliff edge, where the dolerite columns fall straight to the water. Totem pole and candlestick stand offshore, 2 freestanding columns visible from the tip on days without sea mist. Wave erosion separated both from the main cliff over geological time. The dolerite here formed when magma intruded into horizontal rock layers roughly 180 million years ago. As it cooled from the outside in, it contracted and cracked in regular patterns. The columns are the result, vertical fracture lines running parallel through the same intrusion. A pale gray stack, sea below, sky above. The Tasman Peninsula connects to the mainland by a single narrow strip of land at Eaglehawk Neck. At its thinnest point, the isthmus measures just 98 feet across, water on both sides. The colonial administration did not miss this. From 1830 to 1877, the peninsula held Port Arthur, the largest convict settlement in Australia. The narrow neck made escape by land nearly impossible without crossing open water or passing the guard post. A line of dogs was chained across the isthmus. The dog line. They were chosen for sharp hearing and loud bark, set to cut through the sound of the surf at night. Tessellated pavement sits at Eaglehawk Neck on a rock platform exposed at low tide. The surface has fractured along natural joint lines into near rectangular blocks, the result of differential erosion along stress fractures in the dolerite. The pattern is precise enough that the natural explanation needs repeating before it settles. Tasman National Park covers the eastern and southern coastlines, where the dolerite sea cliffs reach their full height. Tasman Arch, Devil's Kitchen, and Remarkable Cave Mark, where the sea has worked through the cliff face, opening chambers and passages at water level. Three Capes track follows the outer edge over 4 days and 3 nights, 30 miles through eucalyptus forest, coastal heath, and open cliff. On the bayside, the community at Nubina lives on the region's basics: fishing, farming, timber, and local tourism. The morning at the wharf keeps a schedule set by weather and tide. Little Blue Lake sits in ground that was worked hard for decades, then abandoned. It lies off Route B82 on the stretch connecting Derby and Gladstone in the South Mount Cameron area. The lake fills a former open-cut tin mining pit. The South Mount Cameron region belonged to a broader tin zone. It ran from the 1870s into the early 1900s, when tin deposits across northeastern Tasmania made the area worth the labor. When the pit flooded and the operation stopped, what remained was a body of water fed by groundwater and trapped runoff. The color comes from mineral residue in the substrate and fine particles held in the water column. A specific mix of dissolved minerals and light angle produces the turquoise the lake is known for. The mineral concentration is high enough to make the water unsafe for swimming, which the signage states plainly. Collectors know the surrounding ground for smoky quartz, amethyst, and topaz. Collection is permitted in designated zones only. Old mining pits remain in the terrain, unfenced, unmarked. From the viewpoints above the southern end, the lake's full shape comes into view. Turquoise water, pale sandy edges, low scrub on the slopes. The contrast holds best between mid-morning and early afternoon, when direct light reaches the basin floor. Mount Wellington stands at 4,170 feet over southeastern Tasmania, the summit of the Wellington Range. It rises above Hobart's western edge, visible from most of the city on clear days, gone behind cloud on many others. The rock here is dolerite, the same stone that defines much of the eastern coastline. On the northwest face, the Organ Pipes Formation exposes the same columnar jointing seen at Cape Hauy, here running parallel for hundreds of feet. It has become the mountain's primary signature. Pinnacle Road climbs from the base to the summit. It closes when ice or high wind makes driving unsafe, which happens several times a year between May and September. The Kunani/Mount Wellington Explorer bus runs a published schedule as an alternative. At the summit, wind regularly tops 62 miles per hour. The temperature sits 15 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit colder than Hobart. 4 miles to the east at sea level, breath turns visible in seconds. The Organ Pipes circuit covers 4.6 miles return from the springs, gaining 1,312 feet. From the viewing area, the Derwent River runs through the city grid below, and the bays of Storm Bay extend to the southeastern horizon. The ferry from Kettering crosses the D'Entrecasteaux Channel to Bruny Island in 20 minutes. A few miles of open water separate the two. The difference in character between them runs much wider. Bruny is two landmasses, North Bruny and South Bruny, joined by the neck. The isthmus is narrow enough to see both stretches of water at once from the boardwalk above it. The island covers 140 square miles. 1,108 people live here by the 2021 count. At the neck, in the late afternoon, short-tailed shearwaters return in large numbers from their feeding grounds over the Southern Ocean. They come in low and fast from the west, banking into the wind before they settle. After dark, little penguins cross the beach below the boardwalk, moving from the water to their burrows in the dune, small but consistent. South Bruny National Park covers the southern end, where the coast shifts from sheltered bay to open ocean. The fluted Cape track runs to the headland, across terrain where the wind has bent the coastal scrub into horizontal lines. The cliffs face the full length of the Southern Ocean, nothing between them and Antarctica. Cape Bruni Lighthouse was first lit in 1838, one of the oldest operational lighthouses in Australia. This is the southern edge of the journey. Behind it, the Southern Ocean runs uninterrupted for 2,000 miles to the Antarctic ice. Hobart was established in 1804 when the colonial settlement relocated to Sullivan's Cove on the Derwent River. It is the capital and the largest city in Tasmania. 247,068 people live across the Greater Hobart area, recorded in the 2021 census. The harbor is the city's most constant feature. Sandstone warehouses from the 1840s stand at the edge of Salamanca Place, facing the water they were built to face. The stone was quarried locally, the buildings have not moved or been significantly altered, and the wharf still lines their front. Salamanca Market opens every Saturday, 8:30 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. It began in 1972 and now fills roughly 350 stalls, handmade goods, local produce, food, and live music. It draws people from across the city week after week. East of Salamanca Place, Battery Point holds the earliest residential streetscape in the city. The streets run narrow and irregular, the houses close to the road, the timber facades weathered to grays and whites. Maritime workers and their families settled it from the 1840s onward. Hobart does not announce itself. The harbor absorbs most of the noise. What remains is a city that has kept more of its original form than most places its age. Wineglass Bay lies within Freycinet National Park, its shoreline curving in the shape that gave it the name. The bay closes at both ends, where two granite headlands meet the water. From the saddle above, the geometry is unmistakable. The sand is white. The water holds a blue that deepens toward the headland bases, where the seabed drops away. The standard approach descends from the saddle between Mount Amos and Mount Mason, down a staircase cut into the granite. 30 to 40 minutes down, the beach stretches roughly a mile between the two headlands, sheltered from the open ocean by the peninsula itself. Mount Amos rises to 1,145 feet. On the northern side of the saddle, the route to its summit adds 2 to 3 hours to the day. It returns the full bay in a single frame from above, the curve of sand and water matching the name exactly. Bottlenose dolphins use the waters off Freycinet regularly. The sheltered eastern coastline stays calmer than the open ocean to the south, so the dolphins appear inside the bay on no fixed schedule. Boats from Coles Bay run wildlife cruises across the outer bays and the marine reserve. Sightings from the beach itself are recorded too. The climb back up the staircase takes longer than most groups expect, especially in the afternoon, when the granite has held the sun for hours. Off the east coast, between the Tasman Sea and the mainland, Maria Island National Park was established in 1972. The island covers 44.6 square miles. A protected marine zone of 7.25 square miles surrounds it. The ferry crosses from Tribuna in roughly 30 minutes. No vehicles reach the visitor. The options are walking and cycling, with bicycle rental at Darlington on the north end. The roads are compacted dirt, running through open grassland, where wombats move through the middle of the day without concern for proximity. Tasmanian devils, wallabies, and Cape Barren geese hold different sections of the island. On the northeastern coast, Fossil Cliffs exposes a near-vertical face of limestone. It is packed with Permian-era marine fossils, laid down roughly 260 million years ago. Back then, the island sat at the edge of a shallow sea. The layers read from the base. No equipment needed. 214. Bishop and Clerk, a dolerite formation on the central ridge, is reached by a track that climbs hard through open terrain. The upper section involves exposed scrambling in wind that can move fast across the ridge. Camping at the Darlington Historic Settlement is the standard overnight. The convict-era buildings there, some still intact, remain part of the site rather than set apart from it. The Museum of Old and New Art occupies the Berrydale Peninsula beside the Derwent River, 8 miles north of Hobart Centre. Above ground, it looks modest. The institution lives below. MONA was funded and built by David Walsh, a professional gambler who spent 2 decades acquiring the collection. It opened in 2011. The catalog holds roughly 1,900 works, from ancient artifacts to contemporary installations. They are organized around 3 themes, Walsh names without euphemism: life, death, and desire. The galleries descend through 3 levels cut into the sandstone cliff. The underground runs cold in every season. Light enters only through the works themselves and through deliberate openings, so the eyes adjust gradually as the descent continues. The ferry from Hobart's central waterfront is the standard approach, 25 minutes along the Derwent. The building is reachable by road, but arriving by water at the private dock with the sandstone cliff rising from the river places it as Walsh intended, something that belongs to its site, not to the city around it. Within the Tasmanian Wilderness World Heritage Area, Cradle Mountain defines the western end of the most demanding walk in the country. The peak stands at 5,069 feet. 200 million years of cooling and freeze-thaw have fractured its basalt ridgeline into serrated teeth. Cloud is the default here. On most days, the summit disappears entirely. The overland track begins at Cradle's northern base and runs 40 miles southeast to Lake St. Clair. 6 days, end to end. Walkers move through alpine moorland, past glacial tarns, through stands of pencil pine that grow no faster than an inch per year. The route crosses Cradle Mountain, Lake St. Clair National Park, without returning to the same point twice. The numbers do not prepare anyone for the first view of the peak. Basalt columns rise in a line from the ridgeline, each one a separate fracture in the same geological event. The whole formation catches mist and releases it in thin bands down the southeast face. Dove Lake sits at the base. From the lake circuit, the full ridgeline appears in a single frame, its reflection held flat on windless mornings before the cloud rolls back. The weather here follows its own logic. A clear morning can close in within 40 minutes. A wet approach can clear suddenly at the saddle. Guides who have walked the overland track for 2 decades still call the conditions unpredictable past the first ridgeline. On the central east coast, Beacheno faces open water with its back to the granite. A seawall runs at the edge of the main street. 1,152 people live here, recorded in the 2021 census. The town was once Wab's Harbor. The name comes from Wauba Debar, a Palawa woman who pulled 2 seal hunters from the sea in the early 19th century. Local memory has kept her name attached to the place in several forms. One is a whiskey label, Wab's Harbor Whiskey, that carries it on the packaging. At the Diamond Island Resort, another little penguin colony comes ashore at dusk, nesting in the sandy ground beneath the grounds. The event is reliable, every evening, every season. A short drive inland, Douglas Apsley National Park holds swimming holes that stay cold through summer. Dove Lake sits at 3,077 feet, directly beneath Cradle Mountain's southern face. A glacial cirque. During the last ice age, ice accumulated faster than it could flow out, and the basin was carved into a bowl. Its walls stay clearly defined on the western and northern sides. The lake covers 213 acres. Its shoreline measures 4.1 miles. The Dove Lake Circuit follows it at water level, 3.7 miles, 2 to 3 hours in normal conditions. Wooden boardwalks cover the softer ground that stays wet year-round. At the northern end stands the boat shed, a timber structure from the early 20th century. It is one of the most photographed points on the island. On still mornings, the shed and the ridgeline above it appear together in the water without distortion. The lake works as a fixed frame for the mountain. The ridgeline shifts through the day. At dawn, the basalt reads dark against lighter cloud. At midday, the top vanishes. Late afternoon drags the longest shadows down the southwest face. At the grassland edges around Cradle Mountain, dusk is the operative hour. The dry buttongrass flats hold still through the afternoon. Then the light drops below the tree line and the wombats emerge. The common wombat reaches nearly 3 feet in length and can weigh up to 77 pounds. Adults are mostly nocturnal, feeding on grasses, roots, and bark. Their incisors never stop growing, ground down against the vegetation they consume. In the wild, they live around 15 years. The burrows they dig run several feet underground, with multiple chambers and more than one entrance. A single complex can extend 65 feet. The front claws work like short, wide shovels. The neck muscles driving each stroke are thick enough to see from 30 feet away. One detail about wombat biology holds attention once encountered. They produce cubic scat. The feces emerge as roughly square pellets, the only animal on the planet that does this. The mechanism sits in the last section of the digestive tract, where the intestinal walls vary in elasticity and compress the material into corners. On the northwest coast, Stanley is a working port that the geography still runs. Low fences, weatherboard houses in faded colors, the sound of wooden doors in the morning. The pace here is set by the land, not chosen by the 595 people who live in it. Above the town, on a cleared rise, stands Highfield Historic Site. Construction began in 1826 under Edward Kerr, who managed the Van Diemen's Land Company's holdings in the northwest. The main building, outbuildings, and grounds have been preserved. The site gives a ground-level account of how the colonial economy worked in this part of the island. Behind the town, the nut rises straight from the coastal plain. It is a volcanic plug, roughly 500 feet high, projecting into Bass Strait. What stands today is what remained after the surrounding material eroded away. The Nut chairlift covers 820 feet of horizontal distance to the summit. The loop track at the top covers 1.7 miles, about an hour at an easy pace. On clear days, the town below appears compressed against the water, and the strait extends in every direction without obstruction. At Godfrey's Beach, at 5990 Arthur Highway in Tirana, the Tasmanian Devil Unzu runs on a simple premise: animals watched inside enclosures. Give up less than animals watched in habitat. The facility opens daily from 9 in the morning. The Tasmanian Devil is the largest surviving carnivorous marsupial in the world. It holds that title by default. Since the thylacine went extinct in 1936, adults reach about 2.5 feet in length and can weigh up to 24 pounds. The fur is black, with a white chest patch, found only here, listed as endangered. The main threat is devil facial tumor disease, a transmissible cancer that spreads through biting. Numbers have fallen sharply since the 1990s. The UNZU works alongside active conservation programs that aim to hold a healthy population on the Tasman Peninsula. The Devil Tracker adventure takes participants into the surrounding forest by four-wheel drive. Tracking stations and infrared night cameras follow devil movement and behavior. The session runs 2 to 3 hours. Tasmania holds its ground without advertising it. The wilderness covers nearly half the island. The coastlines run from sheltered harbor to exposed ocean cliff within a few hours' drive. The wildlife survives here in concentrations most comparable landmasses lost a century ago. What the island offers is an accumulation, not a single experience. 17 locations, each adding a layer the last one did not hold. Mountain geology and glacial lake. Wildlife at the margin between nocturnal and visible. A port town of 595 where the colony survives in intact stone. A peninsula built to be impossible to leave. A city that has held its waterfront since 1804. The island does not need noise to hold attention. The dolerite columns stand at the height they reached 60 million years ago. The lichen on the granite measures its growth in centuries. The shearwaters return to the neck every evening, on the same bearing they used the year before. Some places are understood quickly. This one takes longer.